a nose. How are you guys doing? Are you having fun today?
Yeah!
Good. All right, so I am Ruth Apollonia, and I am a writer actually, but I'm going to talk to you guys today about using your talent that is from God for God. So evangelizing through the arts. Do you guys know what I mean when I say arts? Is that, okay, so that,
You mean like music?
yes. So not just like art as in paintings and drawings and sculptures, but music and literature. There we go. And all the creative ways that you can use to express your ideas and that kind of stuff. So. Sorry. Oh, it did work. Okay. So this is a little logo that I've created for myself, affirming faith through noteworthy novels. So that is my goal, is to write novels that draw people closer to Christ. So let's talk a little bit about who I am here, what I've done. So just a second. Okay, there we go. So I am the authoress of the Annabelle of Ankeny series that is published through Marion Press. It's the first novel that they published, and sorry, I think of myself more as a storyteller. So my series is for young adult. It's a young adult series, and it takes place in the 13th century. I'm going to show you a bit of a trailer in just a second. So today,
What are you doing?
Maybe turn the volume down a little bit.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about glorifying God through the use of your talent. Bringing truth, beauty, and goodness to the world through your art. And specifically, I'm going to talk about writing to evangelize, since that's what I do. And then my philosophy when it comes to writing, and I think it can be applied to any kind of art.
Turn the microphone down a little bit, probably would help. Yeah, it's all better.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you a trailer for my book series, and it's about 3 minutes long. I am Annabelle of Ankeny, and I was taken from my family at the age of 5. They took me to an island far, far away, but I ran away and hid from those disguised men. There was a man on the island, Peter, a kind, kind man, my angel. He raised me as his own. He taught me how to hunt, how to swim, how to be thankful for all that God has given us. That forbidden island became my home, and I felt like a princess. I wanted to stay there evermore. But Peter was wise. He knew someday I would have to return to Ankeny. He didn't want me to share the same lot as his wife and children. So he taught me in the art of self-protection. He prepared me, but when those men came back, those Demolites, they went after him, and he told me to run, so I ran. With torch and sword they came, and the trees caught on fire. But I ran like he told me to do.
I was able to take one of the Demolites' boats and get off the island. But I left Peter, my angel, to the flames. But I did make it to Ankeny. He wanted me to make it to Ankeny. So I got off the island and made it to a land I hardly had any memories of. There is so much more to say, for when I found my way back to Ankeny, that's when my story truly began.
Join Annabelle as her incredible tale continues in Ruth Apollonia's Annabelle of Ankeny, Burdens of the Mind. Available at shopmercy.org. Keyword in search box, Annabelle.
Have you made a movie out of it?
That kind of looked like a movie, didn't it? But no, that was just my trailer, so.
You should make it. That was good.
I know, I think the same thing, but yeah, it takes more than just me. So there are 3 so far, and I just turned in my 4th one, so it'll start the publishing process. I just turned it in on July 15th. Okay. I know, kind of looks like a movie, doesn't it? All right, so what makes for good art or a good book? So this is my philosophy. So it needs to be worthy and worth the reader's time. So what do I mean by worthiness? So this is talking about, show up. There we go. The grammar, the punctuation, good spelling, all those kinds of things. Because if you open up a book and like there are misspelled words or the editing is really bad, you can't really pay attention to the story, can you? Right? Yeah. So that really needs to be in place before it can people can see the worth of the book. And the worthiness, so this is stuff that can usually be learned, and then often a copy editor can help you with these types of things. So when it comes to the worth of a book, this is looking at the intriguing plot, the compelling characters, and then there always has to be a moral lesson from the story. And in my case, I am writing to evangelize. So I want my readers to draw closer to Christ, closer to the sacraments, closer to the church. Okay, so St. Augustine of Hippo famously said, "Our hearts are restless, O Lord, until they rest in you." So that means everybody has this little God-sized hole in their heart that can only be filled by God. So what I want my books to do is to touch that hole. You can't fill it, but to touch it so that it makes them want to seek out God and seek out the sacraments and the church. So when truth is presented, even in a fictitious story, it touches that part of the heart that's searching for God and yearning for truth. So how do you do this? Well, like in my stories, for example, I present the intercessory power of the body of Christ and having characters that are longing for the sacraments or striving for virtue. And how is this done? How is a story formed? So I once heard said that a good story always starts with a question, and that was very true with my stories. So I started writing Annabelle's story when it was the time when the Harry Potter books were being made into movies and the Da Vinci Code had come out.
Yes.
And I heard all the talk about how those novels could take people away from Christ. And I was wondering, well, why can't there be a story that actually draws people closer to Christ, closer to the sacraments? So I was thinking, well, in what situation would anybody be in when all they had to do was to learn about Christ? Well, if they were on a deserted island, that would pretty much be really good. So that is how Annabelle ended up on the island. So then the question arises, well, what else can be learned while being on an island? And so that's where she learns how to defend herself, how to survive on the island. So why is she on the island in the first place? So this is how my plot kind of developed, is I had to find a reason she was on the island. And then someone had to be there to teach her. So in this case, it was Peter. And so the question is then, why is he on the island? And so this is how my story kind of formed, with all these questions that I had in my head. So when I first started writing the story, I was just writing it for myself. I wasn't even thinking about getting it published. I was just doing it for myself. And I worked on it. I worked on the story for at least 4 years before I even thought about publishing. And it was only after working on it for so long, and when I realized, you know what, this story is pretty good, I want to share it with the world. That was when I pursued publishing. Okay, so how to get themes that are worth a reader's time inside of a book. Well, let the virtues and the sacraments be your guide. And then I also use the title of my books to help me. So, for example, my second book is called Heart's Relief. So the main themes in this book is about forgiveness. The third book is called Kingdom's Call. So the themes in this book, So the themes in this book is about doing the will of the Father, and then also doing what's best for the kingdoms in the story. And then my fourth book, which is not published yet, is called Lasting Word. And so that is about keeping one's promises, and then also Christ being the eternal Word. Okay, I've got a really big word for you, magnanimity. Have you guys heard of this word before? Yeah.
No.
You heard of it? Okay. So magnanimity is a virtue. So what is magnanimity? So in essence, it is wanting to do great things for the Lord. Okay. So if you have like a burning in your heart, you have a hunger to do great things for the Lord, that is magnanimity, okay? And that is not being prideful, okay? Humility and magnanimity are both virtues. Okay, so humility is being rooted in the truth. So that means you recognize the talents that God has given you. So, you know, if you're a good singer, if you are really good at playing an instrument, if you're a good artist, you recognize that you do have those talents and they come from God, okay? And then you want to develop those talents and you want to strive to perfect them, okay? And this is a lifelong journey. So the conference title is Behold Your Mother. So how can you, in a fictitious story, draw readers closer to Mary? Now, you could write a story that was actually about Mary or about the Holy Family, but if she's not in your story, how can you draw people closer to Mary? Well, you can present characters that are icons or analogies for Mary because of the roles that they have. So what are some of Mary's roles? Okay. So what is Mary's role to Christ?
To be a good mother.
She's the mother, yeah, his mother. And how about to the angels and in heaven?
The queen.
The queen, yes, very good. So she's a queen, she's a mother. So in my case, in my story, I actually have a royal family. And I actually, because I wanted to get a little Marian theology in my book, the plot was, I formed it because I wanted to get a certain line into my story. So here is the line. So I had the king, oh yes, so she's mother queen, or queen mother. So I had the king kind of disappear for a little bit so that the son would have to step up. And then I had one of the characters say, will go through the queen. He'll listen to his mother before he listens to us. He'll not deny what she asks of him. So my entire plot was changed. Well, it wasn't really changed because I hadn't written it yet, but it influenced it because I wanted to get those lines in there. And that was in the second book, Heart's Relief. Okay, so how do you know if your talent is pleasing to God? So these are the 3 things that I've come up with. So 1, your relationship with God is going to increase. It's going to get better. You're going to draw closer to Him and to the sacraments. Number 2, your virtue will increase, okay? You're going to become more humble, less prideful. Now, sometimes when we're using our talents, we get kind of prideful about them sometimes. If we start to think that it's all of us and we don't recall that God gives us our talent. So if we find ourselves when we're using our talent and we're getting a little prideful, we just got to take a step back and realize that God has given us this talent to use for His glory. Okay? So that's how we stay humble. And then number 3, it draws other people closer to Christ. And then it can also inspire others to use their talents, okay, to use their own art. So Hannah Whitmore is a 17-year-old reader. She sent me an email through my website and said that she was making this movie poster for Annabelle of Ankeny. And I was like, well, I would love to see it. And so she sent it to me. So this is not the whole thing because the top half, it kind of gives away some of the stories. So I didn't want to show that to you guys. But these are some of the scenes I could show you. So in the middle there, this is when her interpretation of when Annabelle first arrives on the island and Peter is showing her, the whole island and all that God has made. And then over here, it's Annabelle being so thankful for Peter, who she calls her angel. And then over here is from a little bit later on in the book when Peter gives her a bag that she has to take with her. And then this is when she's really even older and she has Peter and his little one, and then Annabelle and her angel, because that's how they refer to each other in the story. Another way to stay humble is through prayer, of course. So this is my prayer when I write. I say, God, give me the words you want me to write, the stories you want said, the truths you want told. Okay, and I just stay open to His will and to His Spirit. Okay, so some closing thoughts here, especially for those who like to write. So write for Christ. Never for what you think a reader wants to hear, okay? So you got to do it for Christ, do it for yourself. Don't write something that you wouldn't want to read, okay? Because it will come out as being false and not authentic. So if you're willing to delete large chunks of your story because you've discerned that it's not what God wants, then you know you're writing for Christ. So little story I have is that I had written about 30 pages of where Annabelle actually meets her family and for the first time after being kidnapped. And she, my document was corrupted and I couldn't open it. So I lost like 30 pages of what I had written. But I wasn't even mad about it. I was like, well, I guess God didn't want that to be in the story. So I rewrote. And what I rewrote is much better than what I had, and it's what's in the story now. Okay, if you want to write, then write. Handwrite, type if you want. So through this process, you actually get better at the craft of writing. Okay, but just because you want to write doesn't mean that you have to get published. Okay. Then whatever your talent is, make sure your art is worth and worthy of people's time. It draws you and others closer to Christ and spreads beauty, truth, and goodness to the world. So if it does that, then your talent from God is for God. And I have one last quote for you. This is from St. Catherine of Siena. Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world ablaze. Okay. All right, do you guys have any questions for me? Yeah.
Do you have a booth down there with some of the books? Or?
I actually do not have a booth, so I will hand out some cards so your parents can go to my website and.
That's sure like the books too.
Okay, we'll give you guys some cards.
Is this in like the medieval times or like?
Yes, it is in the 13th century. It takes place in the 13th century. Yeah.
Yeah, I should just go.
What's that?
You should make a booth and I get one day.
I should make a booth. Yes, I should.
I might get a card for Anastasia. She might like these books.
You want a card?
And maybe you should
I'll
make
get
a
one
magnet.
from me and my brother.
Magnets? That's a good idea.
My mom reads us the Black Stallion books, and we really like them.
Oh,
But
okay.
like, we have to get like into it, otherwise we don't like it. Like if we just go like half of the chapter, we don't really get into it.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes you gotta read a little bit more. Yes.
How long did it take for it to get published?
Oh, that is a really good question. Okay, so I actually started, my first book here was actually published through what's called a vanity press in 2012 initially. So they are halfway in between a traditional publisher and self-publishing. I mean, I didn't know it at the time. They claimed they were a traditional publisher, but that is how I published it the first time. And the whole publishing process takes about a year from the time you turn it in, and then it goes to the editors and back and forth. But really, it kind of depends on how many other books they have. But at Marion Press, it takes about a year. So my fourth book that I just turned in will probably take about a year until it's actually published.
You have a lot of copies of them.
A lot of copies of. I have some in my car, and I have to order more sometimes. So.
When did you start thinking about writing it?
So I started. It was 2006, 2007 is when I started. So Annabelle has been with me for a while. Sure. Yeah.
You like the movie,
I would like for it to be made into a movie, but it takes more than just me to do that. So.
I'll take a while to costume. It'll be a little bit different from the story.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
When did you start writing?
So I started writing, so I was in college, and I'm an occupational therapist, so I was going through the occupational therapy program. So it was 2006, 2007, and I was writing, I wanted to write because I was taking all these science courses and stuff, and I think my right brain just needed to come out, the creative side. Yes.
Is Annabelle of Ankeny your first book?
Annabelle of Ankeny. Yes, it is.
Are you planning on writing a fifth one?
I am actually, because I had so much information in the fourth one that I had to it wouldn't all fit. They kind of gave me a limit on words. So I was like, well, I'll have to go into the fifth one then. So I don't know how many it will end up with. I haven't plotted it out or anything like that. I'm just going by the seat of my pants, so yes.
What do you think the fifth book would be?
The title, I think it is going to be something like Legacy of Merit or something like that. Oh, I'm also doing them in alphabetical order. So, the titles.
Is there pictures?
You know, it's not a picture book. So
I was
there's-
wondering that because some big books have like a couple pictures, but
Yeah,
not that many.
yeah. There's no pictures in this book.
You have to imagine it, which I like. I like imagining.
You guys can look forward to reading it when you're a little bit older. Then how about that?
I'll have my mom read it to me.
How old are you guys? About
I'm
9 and 11. So I've had as young as 10 read it. So it kind of depends upon the maturity level of the reader. So if you're 10 and you are are a reader, you'll probably like it. So.
Why do you have to have a book published?
Well, if you write a book, if it doesn't get published, then nobody else could really read it. So it's
Why is it that way? Why can't they not read it?
well, if you just I mean, I guess you could. Are you thinking more along the lines of like just put it on the internet so anyone could read it? Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? Back when I started writing these, like I wouldn't even know how to have done that. It was in like 2006, 2007. So.
They didn't have that much technology.
Yeah, that wasn't even a thought that like crossed my mind because like publishing is what you usually do with a book. So.
I thought it was against the law to not publish a book. I know what you need to make an audio book.
Yes.
Yes, you need to make
Are you gonna put your books in the library?
Yeah, you should.
You know what? You know what you guys can do is if you get a card, you can go to your local library and ask them to purchase it. That's what you can do because the libraries can do that.
But they buy the books.
Yeah, or they get it from someone else. So someone had a hand over here. So did you have a question? No. Okay.
You said you got I've never really Santa when you read the book, and it's not that Santa would use one from YouTube or something. You read the book and you can listen to it.
Oh yeah, they do make books like that, don't they? Or is it a program?
It's
Read aloud, like a book
Okay.
with like buttons that you can press to.
So it has to be an e-book and then it reads it? Is that? Yeah. Okay. So it's actually not as an e-book right now. So I should ask Mary Press about that, shouldn't I?
the same thing as what we're talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there isn't an audiobook either. So let's get some of these back here. So it's a young adult, so I usually say high school and up, but I've had as young as 10 enjoy it. So if you're an avid reader and you're 10 years old, you will like it.
I'm 9 and I would like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know that
So I started writing in 2006, 2007, and then it didn't get published until 2012. And then the Vanity Press closed down in 2017, and Marion Press picked it up, and then I had to re-edit it. So it's kind of like, I kind of think of it as the story was not quite finished. So it's been a lot of time, and then there was time in between. So, but initially it was at least 4 years until I even thought about publishing. I was just writing it for myself. So.
How many pages are in the book?
Oh, yes, they're very long. So usually it's really the word count that you go by, because the page number can change just based upon margins and that kind of stuff. But the first book has the actual story. I'm trying to find that. 396 pages, 395.
I've been on it.
And they're kind of a little bit longer each time.
If you read one page a day, then you do it for 1 year.
The second book has 442.
How many chapters are there?
And the third book has 459. So there's lots
Each
of
one
pages
has
and
a
very
little
long.
bit more than the
Yeah, they're getting a little bit longer each time, aren't they?
The first one was a lot more shorter than the second one.
Yeah, there was a bigger difference, wasn't there? Yeah. So
About 100 different.
I do have a YouTube channel where you can see my trailer, and I have another trailer, and I also have some videos that I've done talking about my books and like comparing the first, like the Vanity Press editions to the new ones. So, interesting.
can hear you.
I just don't know if I want to ruin it for you. So I won't say. But yes, it has love. It's a love story, but ultimately it's a love story between people and God. So, but yes, it has all kinds of love stories in it. Stress. How long does it take to read? Is that what you said? To write. So, yeah. So, it really depends on how much time I have and everything. But initially, the first book, it took. I didn't think about publishing it for like 4 years. So I was working on it like that full time, on and off. But through that process, I was learning who the characters were and where the story was going.
How long did the second one take?
So the second one was actually it was a lot quicker. I think it was probably like a year or 2 years.
I would say, I would think it would be because you had already done it once, so you kind of know how to do it.
Yeah, I kind of had an idea of where it was going. So, Trust.
How did you get the award?
So the Catholic Writers Guild has an award that they give out. So you have to first get a seal of approval. So they have this different process on their website. So first it has to get a seal of approval, and then if it gets that, then you can apply for the award. And so I applied online.
How do you write the summary on the back?
The summary, yeah. They gave me a limit on the words, and then I just kind of have to, make the story go down to, so it doesn't give away too much, but it tells a little bit of what's on the back. So, okay. So I think my time is up. Oh yeah, so Ruth Apollonia is my pen name. So my actual name is Angela Anderson. So Ruth is my middle name, and then Apollonia is my confirmation saint. So Saint Apollonia is the patroness of dental diseases and toothaches. So, we will hand out business cards if you guys would like them.
Yes.
So, and I think my time is up. So thank you guys for listening.